So, hi, Jessica. Thanks for meeting with me today.
No problem.
Cool. Just for my list, I mean, I know you pretty well and I've been following you for quite some time on the socials, but I was hoping you could give us a sense of your background.
Yeah, I've been a mover from a very young age. I grew up in a health club. My parents owned a gym when I was growing up, and I worked the front desk. So I have always been surrounded by movement and physical activity. I was a competitive tennis player and then a dancer. So movement was just a huge part of my background and one of those things that I hold very dear to me. And then I kind of drifted away. I went to college, I had a career, I did lots of different things that weren't related to movement and found my way back in my mid 30s to aerial arts, particularly aerial silks and trapeze. Then I got back in the gym a bit. And from there, it became a really big piece of my life, which then contributed to a lot of overtraining, which may be familiar to people in the movement space.
Mhm.
And because of that overtraining and really developing some big problems in my own body, I found gyrotonic and became a trainer of gyrotonic and gyrokinesis. And yeah, that's kind of like my own personal movement journey, but certainly the places where I decided to dive deep were very much related to things that were going on in my own body and trying to work through them and find movements and systems that would support that.
And if I'm not mistaken, were you working at Justine Bernard's studio in Washington,
Yes.
D.C.?
Yeah, I
So
was
you
at
were working
Elements.
with yeah, one of the leading instructors who also has a pretty strong focus on getting the basics down and building strong bodies.
Exactly. And so I was very lucky to do a lot of my formative training with Justine and work in a rehabilitative setting. So that meant that I was also working with aerialists because that was my target population, but
Mhm.
also people from all different walks of life.
Yeah, it seems like that must have been a pretty cool time over there at the
Yeah,
studio.
yeah.
So, then we'll fast forward a few years, and here you are putting together this free summit called Unraveling the Myth of Flow. I'd love to hear your process as to what inspired you to put this together. What components did you want to put in there? How'd you build it?
Yeah, I think when I first started doing aerial, I was enamored with the tricks. And for anyone out there who has heard about aerial or seen it but hasn't done it, I think that's what you notice first, the whole spectacle, and that's true of circus in general. So I spent a lot of time developing those foundations and developing big tricks, and then found myself at a certain point feeling like there was a disconnect in what I could do skill wise and what showed up on stage. There was a piece of the puzzle missing. And I definitely found that through a lot of both gyrotonic and the mobility and strength work that I was doing, that as I developed my movement capacity, I had a lot more available to me as a mover. And so I think that as a coach, an aerial coach and pole coach, a lot of times what's missing for people is bridging the gap between those skills that they're taught in class and
Mm.
what they want to be able to do with their bodies. And whether that's to look a certain way or whether that's to feel a certain way, there's a gap there that isn't discussed much in typical classes. So I wanted to kind of bridge that through a summit where people got not just my perspective on this, but a lot of different perspectives that I feel touch on all of the possible things that can have inputs into bridging that gap.
Wow. Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I see, people are drawn to
Mhm.
working out and they go for how it's going to look. And then at some point, it feels disjointed and it can be maybe from a lack of strength, maybe from a lack of skill, and also from a lack of being able to go inside the movement, and find your own flow and expression, essentially movement fluency within any movement language. So I'm so curious to hear about your selection process for these speakers.
I wanted to draw from people that were both well versed in aerial and pole technique, um, who had dug really deep and become really high level in those movement arts, and hear what they had to say about how they personally bridged that gap for themselves. And I wanted to make sure that I had perspectives from people outside of aerial arts, because we can get in our own little boxes. And for the most part, we self-select to this thing because of a movement pathway or movement journey that we've had that tends to follow some similar paths. So whether that's gymnastics background or whether that's dance background, the paths are very similar. And especially the instructors, the coaches, the performers that get to a higher level tend to have these types of backgrounds. So we get into an echo chamber. And I wanted to make sure that there was some outside perspectives there as well.
Yeah, and cross training is just so important. You never know where that piece of information is going to come from that's going to help you put together what you need. And oftentimes it is coming from an outside perspective that just helps you see something about your own movement pattern is a little different. And as a trainer, I pull from all kinds of different methodologies and approaches, even when I'm teaching one particular movement style, because people hear and understand differently. And it just seems like such a great opportunity to get these varied perspectives, some of which might be more challenging for us. I have such limited experience in aerial, for example, but when I looked through your list of teachers, I saw Jen Pilati, who's a good friend of mine. And also, I wouldn't be who I am as an instructor had I not met Jen in like 2016 and we started trading sessions because we had studios right beside each other in our yard. She influenced me so much in the mind body connection. And then Marlo Fiskin, who's an incredible pole dancer. But when you look at her, the what she puts out on social media, it's really accessible. And she's talking about concepts that can be applied anywhere. And I have so many of her classes, and I just love her floor flow
Mhm.
and the way that she unlocks these ways of moving waves in your body.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very lucky to have all of these amazing people. And certainly I hand selected everyone in this summit. So I picked the people that I wanted to hear more from. I, pay a lot of attention to what's going on in both the aerial space and the movement space writ large. I am a voracious consumer of information.
You're also a
And
voracious expresser. I love the written posts that you put up. They make me think every time.
awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to bring in people that I really appreciate not only what they have to say, but the risks that they're taking and saying it.
Yeah. So I was hoping that you could speak a bit to my student audience and my newsletter audience who are getting this, because primarily this is a demographic of multidisciplinary movement instructors and then people who just love getting into their bodies. So even if you're not an aerial artist, what would you get out of signing up for the summit, which by the way is free? Very good price.
Yeah, you could absolutely get a lot out of the summit, even if you don't do aerial, because the whole point of the summit is to help you find the pieces that are missing in being able to move the way you want to move. Right. And
Hmm.
this just so happens to be that a large part of the people at the summit want to move a certain way in the air,
Hmm.
but they also want to move a certain way on the ground. And the way that they want to move is not all the same, right? People are looking to get something different out of this. So again, that's why I picked people to speak that are going to be able to speak on this more broadly, because what everyone is looking for, what everyone feels like they're missing is a little different. And some of that is more in the mindset realm and being able to dance without being all up in your head. And for some people, it's being able to round out the edges of their movement, whether that's end range control or whether that's just, you know, not having that sticky shoulder anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for something different, and any type of mover is welcome.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds also like if you're a trainer and you're going in there, you're just going to get so many great tools to help your clients find new freedom in their movement and their flow.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the people that are speaking at the summit are coaches in
Hmm.
some regard. And I think all coaches struggle to some extent to always speak the language of their clients. And I know that for me, I find myself sometimes saying one thing and then re-saying it to make it understood for people who aren't as seeped in the content as I am. And
Hmm.
I think no matter what, coaches are going to find other coaches speaking to them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it just sounds great.
Mhm.
So this summit is happening the weekend of the 22nd,
Yep,
right?
June 22nd through June 24th. That's a
Yeah.
Saturday through Monday.
Yeah. And it's kind of like this whole long parade of great presentations, most of which are about 30 minutes. Of course, I had to go over because that's my nature, but hopefully you'll forgive me for that. And then along with that, you also have like VIP packages, which seems like there's so many great courses from all of these teachers available in there. Like I can't wait to take Jen Pilates and Marlo Fiskins, of course. I signed up for that immediately. Can you talk a little bit about the extras?
Yeah, so the VIP pass allows you extended access to all the recordings. Right now, if you just sign up for free, which you can totally do, it's 48-hour access to every speaker presentation. But if you sign up for the VIP pass, you get lifetime access. You can go back to it anytime. Plus, you get access to some extra speaker panels and some quick movement break movement sessions with me. And then you also, this is the biggie, you have access to courses, programs, memberships, etc., from all of the presenters. And if you added all that up, just that would be $2,000 worth of extras in programs. So it is a really, really good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be including a link for all of my people to sign up. So I think that pretty much sums it up here. Thank you so much for meeting with me today,
Thank you
explaining
for
this to
having me.
everyone. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, cheers. And I hope to see everyone there.